Good morning, game makers. Happy Monday. Today we're going to add some islands to our room. They're going to be on a layer in between our other instances, our objects that are flying, and our background. To do so, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say create a new instance layer. You might think new background layer, but because our islands are going to be objects, I believe they have to be placed on an instance layer. We can rename it. So island layer makes a lot of sense, but do know that GameMaker will draw these objects in in the order that they're listed here. So the background layer gets drawn first, and then as you go up, it puts like a clear cellophane sheet with the object on it. So the island layer right now is on top, which means if an island was to scroll down the room, um, we'd be able to see it overlap the objects. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this thing too, because we're not there yet. I did a little homework and stuff, but I'm not quite ready to reveal the boss yet. So to change the order of these layers, I'm going to click on my island layer and drag it so that it's in between. So now my islands will be drawn in between my water and my objects, which makes a lot more logical sense. Now I need to load my island sprites. So I'm going to create a sprite, call it SPR island, and I'm only going to have one island that has 3 subimages that are chosen randomly. So I'm going to go ahead and import, and go to my shooter assets and select the 3 subimages. But you'll notice only one appears, and that's simply because my canvas isn't big enough to contain them. So I'm going to make that a little bit larger. So I'm going to try 125 and see. Whoops, why didn't that stay clicked? 125, and nope, not quite big enough. So let's try 150% and apply. All right, that seems to work. Maybe it would have worked the first time and I just didn't um, hit apply. But anyways, you can see I now have my 3 sub images. But keep in mind that those sub images are gonna animate, and that's gonna be just crazy. The islands will be changing. So when I set up my object, I have to make sure that that's not taking place. So in my object, in my create event, um, I need to make sure, and you can see I started setting things up. I didn't quite like the way that was going. So the first thing in my create event is going to be to randomize. And then I have to say that I do not want animation. So got to remember what that is. Set animation speed and 0. Alternatively, I could say image underscore speed equals 0 if I was doing coding. But set animation speed to 0 is going to work. Then I need to set my sprite. Now I already did assign a sprite. You can see I said I guess I didn't use the island sprite, but I wanted to choose between the 3 sub images. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make this a little bit larger, is say use the sprite, but the frame is going to be image random. So it's going to choose a whole number, and I'm going to say choose a number between image num 0 and the number of images minus 1, because remember the first sum image is 0. So if it picked a, and there's 3 sub images, so image number would be equal to 3. But if it chose that one, there is no sub image 3. It's 0, 1, and 2. That's why you need the -1. Um, then I could also set a rotation. Remember, rotation works on a 360-degree wheel. So I'm going to choose, and in this case, it doesn't have to be an image or integer. It can be just a random number that's a float, and anywhere from 0 to 359. And that's going to rotate the island around. And then the last thing I want to do is I want to give a little bit of variety for the scale. Um, so in order to set this up so that it's even, I actually need to create a temporary variable. So I'm going to actually do that first, and I'm going to call it scale, and scale is not a built-in variable, so that's available to me. And I'm going to choose a scale of random underscore range. And the random range allows you to choose or to set your lower end and higher end. Now, I don't want my scale to be 0 because that would mean my object is not there. So I'm going to say it can be anywhere from, oops, uh, 3/5 or 3/4 its regular size to uh, a quarter larger. So it can be anywhere from 0.75 or 75% to 125%. And then I'm going to go ahead and set my horizontal and vertical scale to whatever that is. So it scales evenly. Otherwise, it might seem really stretched out and skinny. Maybe that would be okay, but I just don't want that to happen. Now, my island right now is not going to do anything because I don't have any movement. So the last thing I need to do is make sure um, that I have that set up. So where did all my actions go? I started clicking things crazily and lost track of it. So let me find my movement. And am I going to give it a horizontal and vertical speed? Yeah, I'm going to give it a vertical speed. And I want that vertical speed to be even with my water, which I've already forgotten what it is. So I'm going to say 2. I'm going to go ahead and put an island in my room and then see if that was correct. So if our island is moving at a real crazy way, I'm going to go ahead. Um, oops, I got to make sure we're on the island layer, and I'm going to drag a couple in to see if we can see if they are in fact randomly sized, randomly rotated, and if the subimage is chosen. So let's see how I did. This could be a real disaster. Um, oop, they seem to be moving the same speed as the water, and everything looked pretty good there. Um, Now I don't have anything spawning these islands yet, but that didn't look too bad. You notice that even though they look the same here, 2 different islands were chosen. So not so bad, not bad for a Monday morning. I do have a confession though, I made 2 unsuccessful videos before this. Full disclosure. So where am I going to generate these islands? Well, I'm going to go up here to object control, something that is never destroyed, and I'm going to set a second alarm. So I already have alarm 0 here, which is spawning enemies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set up another alarm. You know what? I bet I can click here and set up alarm 1, and I'm going to say that that's 60 plus random 60. So this is going to spawn islands a little more randomly than the enemies, which are spawned every second. And then I'm going to go over and I need to create an event alarm 1. So let's see, how do I get, I'm too zoomed in here, guys. So how do I get my events? Here we go. Add event, alarm 1, alarm. So I was doing so well and now it's all falling apart. So the first thing I want to do is reset my alarm for alarm 1, 60 plus random 60. And I could randomize this, but I think I'm not going to worry about it too much. And then when the alarm goes off, we are going to create an island. We're going to do that at a random room width. And now I got to make sure that I'm definitely off the screen. And these islands are pretty big sprites, so I'm going to say minus 64 and hope that that's big enough. Now, the only thing that we haven't done is when we instance something in, is we've been instancing it on the instances layer. In this case, I want to make sure it's brought in on the island layer so that it continues to be between our water and our objects. So let's see what that's going to look like. Let's see if we're going to get some islands that spawn into our game here. So it looks like I have made a mistake. There seemed to be an island that just seemed to flash into existence, and that's because I'm not very good at what I do. Can anyone figure out why you'll see some islands just suddenly appear? Um, in fact, when I'm looking at this, I'm not even sure why that's happening. Let's see. -64 should be a big enough to get them off the screen. So did I not center my sprite? Let's go back up here to sprite. Top left. I forgot to center, and that's why. So middle center should prevent that from happening. Um, Rookie mistake. I know it. So let's see. We should have no islands. Oops. That just randomly appear. They should all be coming in from the screen. You can see they are not overlapping the other instances in our room. And they are coming in randomly rotated and randomly scaled. So that all looks pretty good. So other than a few hiccups today, we were able to get another element into our game. We created a new layer for things to be created on. We now have a sense of there's some land down there, and created a little more atmosphere to our room. And during this week, I think we'll add a boss. That's my next project for you, adding the boss. I've already done the programming, but I'll walk you through what I did. And at the end of this week, we will have our very last quiz on the scrolling shooter. We'll have a week. I think you guys are going to have a week off while we develop our plan moving forward. And when we get back from that week off, we'll be working on our last game, which is the breakout game. Thanks for watching, guys, and hopefully my sound recorded. We'll find out in a few seconds. Enjoy your day.